Gloria Brooks here with Nature Glow's eScience. Today I want to talk about become a liberated homeschooler. You know, if you are the type of person that is just burned out trying to model public school education, this video is for you. And there could be a variety of reasons why you may be burning out. Trying to squeeze in all of the subjects 5 days a week can be very stressful for some people. And I also realize that there are some homeschoolers that just love and thrive on a traditional model of education. And that's cool. Then this video might not be for you, but I don't know. Listen on, just see. I know for me, when I graduated, story time, when I graduated from college in 1996, I always had just a very different view of education, and it began when I was just a little girl even. But immediately I noticed the kids, and I noticed their long faces when I would do the divided subject. So I quickly wanted to bridge the gap, find a way to be creative and find a way to get them engaged and interested in learning in the classroom. So for me, early on, when I was a new teacher, I thought, hands-on was the way to go. And as I still did, a lot of lecture, and actually I still do what would be considered quote unquote lecture. Even my courses now are, I have a 20-minute video of teaching from a PowerPoint. And, that's a model of delivering a concentrated amount of information in as short of amount of time as possible. And that part has been hard for me to let go of. But anyway, I'm digressing here. I want to stay focused. But yeah, I remember teaching in a inner city school for underprivileged children in Baltimore, Maryland, and it was my first year of teaching. I was teaching 3 students, one that had really special needs. She had some learning delays and whatnot. They were literally 3 kids, one that was really emotionally young. He was 8 years old. One that was 12 years old that was super incredibly smart, but hated school. It was interesting after a while, once the newness wore off and the 3 kids just challenged me beyond anything I could handle, because it was just my first year of teaching. I was green under the ears, didn't know what I was doing. But the first couple months with them was heaven, because I had them doing all these hands-on activities. We were going outside, we were going outdoors for math, and I remember we did this one exercise. I forget exactly what it was, but we were counting row houses and then using a stats sheet to record mathematical data on. And we had this beautiful, right in the middle of the city of Baltimore, we had this beautiful field across the street from our school. And I just found a way to get the kids outdoors. But then the behavioral problems started to come in. I didn't know what to do. I was just lost. And I ended up leaving. I felt really sad about that. I felt I quit. But, I just didn't have the tools. I needed an easier environment, to, at least learn, get some tools and get some experience before I could go back again, which I did in a few years. I went back to it was called Baltimore Academy of Excellence. And I went back to BAE, as we lovingly called it, and had a more successful year, but they were using a different type of curriculum, which I absolutely hated. So I was a monitor. It was an ACE program where the kids sit in these cubicles and they raise their hand when they need help. And it was just so freaking boring. I was I muscled through it, though. I made it through the year, but it like stole all creativity. It was like there was no creativity going on with that curriculum whatsoever. I was just like checking boxes. I would like fall down bored doing that curriculum. And I know there's people that love that too. You know, there's just something for everybody. But yeah, it stole my creativity, and I couldn't do anything really creative with the kids, or I couldn't think of anything in that type of a scenario because I did afford one-on-one with the kids, which can be made creative, but I don't know. It just wasn't my bag, so to speak, the ACE program. Although I had that when I was in grade 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th. I was in a school called, this was in New York before my parents moved to Baltimore. In the early 90s, I did go to an ACE school, Accelerated Christian Education, with the life packs and the paces. And I personally thrived in it, but it's a lot different when you're monitoring it as a teacher. Like, it just wasn't my teaching style to be a monitor, running around answering questions and checking off. Yeah, I just couldn't do it. I could do it as a student, but not as a teacher. And the reason I loved it as a student was because I could go at my own pace, and I just ran with it. And because when I was a little girl, I was taken away from my mother at an early age, I actually didn't do well in my early elementary years, and I failed like 2 grades. I think I failed like 1st grade and 2nd grade, right? Like kindergarten was the best ever. And then I moved schools, and I just checked out. I wasn't interested in my traditional schooling. I'd rather have been outside. But so yeah. So liberating your homeschool education. So let's come back around to that topic before I go off on more stories and rabbit trails about my own experience. So once I left BAE, I was back in I was able to be more creative again. My 3rd year of teaching, I taught in a private school again. I was a student aide or teacher's aide, and also a substitute teacher. And the teacher allowed me to take over a couple of subjects. I took over science and like reading, I think it was. Yeah. So I took over those 2 subjects, and I was able to be as creative as I wanted to be. She gave me free reign to like write creative stories and get the kids like acting out the stories and writing creative stories themselves. It was like it was my renaissance, honestly, in education, that 3rd year of teaching. And then I went through a slump. I left that school. I've taught in many different private school situations, probably the same number of different foster homes, which is like 6 or 7. I think I taught in about that same number of private schools. Kind of a funny relationship there. But I'm nomadic by nature. It's just in my blood. So then I moved to Delaware, and I taught in private school there for 7 years. And I had like this wave of creativity. Like when I began there, I was super rigid. I like tried really rigid methods of getting the kids to like be quiet in the hall. Like, we had to be quiet in the hall because it would disrupt other classes. But like, I was really hyper focused on getting them to sit in their seats and not talk. And it just wasn't me, but I tried it out. And gradually, like, I started to relax again around all that control stuff. But I went through a slump. I think it was early 2000s. I just started to get bored. I was tired of divided subjects. I was tired of seeing my students' long faces. The creativity kind of just left until Dawn Tolman. I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it in a different way. Don Tolman is a health and wellness teacher, and he came to our school to do a series of seminars on health and wellness and also on holistic education, centered around nature's patterns and nature's numbers, like the golden ratio and Fibonacci numbers, which he used in the development of his nutritional foods. He found the recipe for pulse, which was supposed to be the same recipe that Daniel and his three friends used in the Bible to get perfect health and wellness. So yeah, Don was a curator in museums, and he found the recipe, and he uses it to this day in his food. He uses the golden proportion, which is 1.618 ... It's a irrational number, goes on forever. But his foods are measured out in the golden ratio. And I had been introduced to this in my early 20s. And so when he reintroduced those numbers to me, something just exploded in me, like this renaissance of renaissance periods of my life. And when he went into nature's patterns, like I had to get out into nature with my camera. I didn't have a cell phone yet with a camera on it, but yeah, I was out there with my Kodiak camera, my nature journal, and I was carefully photographing and videoing nature's patterns. It became like this obsession. It was really interesting. And so I started bringing the classroom and introducing my students to this, and many of them just were excited with me, because what I did was, instead of sitting at our desks with divided subjects, I started combining the subjects and bringing them outdoors and teaching out in nature, and like combining math with literature, with language arts, with science, and it became like unit study. I actually naturally evolved into teaching unit study style learning, and the kids loved it and thrived on it. So I would do like short teachings and then mostly hands-on, where the kids were working with each other, because kids are extremely social. And when we're shutting them up all the time to sit down and listen to us talk, it's just not natural for most kids. I mean, there are auditory learners that thrive on that as well, but kids have super packed energy, and they need physical movement, and they need more social interaction than traditional education allows a framework for. So from there, I went on to visit other non-traditional schools, like free schools, Sudbury schools, which are they're the same. They're called democratic schools, where the kids have a voice, a strong voice, and a say on who's hired, like who teaches them. They get to choose their own classes, or they can just do their own thing. They can be playing video games all day. The adults totally trust the child to take responsibility for their education, and it works. It works. And I was just so shocked and amazed when I would go to these free schools and just see these kids happily choosing what they wanted to do with their time and how they wanted to learn. So I ended up leaving private school, and so this is part of my growth here, like starting off as this creative teacher, this rigid teacher for a while, and not really being satisfied with being rigid, and like just kind of the ups and downs of creativity. Then the Renaissance period of my career, where I just grabbed a hold of patterns in nature and numbers in nature and took off with that and evolved into unit study style learning. And then it went on. I moved to a commune. The egalitarian philosophy. And I hate to use this word because it's so taboo, but basically anarchism, where there's no one leader. people are equally making decisions together. And boy, that's hard work. You know, I understand why hierarchies exist, because it's an easier way for humanity to get into order. But they don't call themselves anarchists. They call themselves egalitarian. They're egalitarian. So I was part of an egalitarian community, a democratic community where everyone had a voice and we made decisions by consensus. And boy, that's a lot of work, you know, waiting to come to consensus and agreement over one decision at a time together as a community. And there were 14 of us. And that was eye-opening, and I loved it. I really loved it and thrived there. I love people sharing power equally. And that's what I'm bringing around to your homeschool. Like, you know, my story, what is your story? What is the evolution of your role as a parent educator now? You know, you may just be starting out and you might be rigid right now. And then, you know, slowly over the years, what usually happens with most homeschoolers is they start off really rigid. And then over the years, they realize, you know, I can relax and loosen up here more, you know, and just share power with the kids. Like, you know, it's the homeschool community is a fascinating community of, so, you know, the spectrum is very wide. And there's so many different flavors and styles of homeschool. And wow, I'm realizing this is the longest talk I've had with you guys. I've been like, I'm noticing that wow, my voice is really getting liberated here on YouTube and Facebook, and you're observing that happening. So let your voice be liberated. You know, let your story come out. Where are you in the evolution of your homeschool career? Where are you as a home educator in your growth, your line of growth? I know for some evolution, the word evolution can be a trigger word for some people, so I try to be careful. But your I don't know, I'm looking for a synonym to replace it. Your growth, just your unfolding, like that's probably a better word to use here. I'm curious in the comments if you would go ahead and share your education journey with us. You know, where are you in your journey? Are you like more rigid and just like, oh, I need to do all the divided subjects, or are you starting to relax around that a little bit more? And I'm also curious if there are veteran homeschoolers that, no, you know what, for our family, the traditional divided subjects just works. And, you know, that's okay too. You know, I have respect for that. Whatever works for you and your family, go for it, you know? And it's all what works for you. All right, so scroll down in the comments and share where you are, what style homeschooler you are, and where you are on the spectrum. Where are you in your growth as a home educator? I'd love to hear that in the comments. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Smash that subscribe button here on YouTube, on Facebook. Those of you watching me here, there too. Share this video with other homeschoolers, you know, to hear this story I'm a homeschool teacher. I don't have kids, but if and when I did have kids, I would probably be an unschooler. Either, I mean, of course, it would depend on my partner, what they want to. There's, you know, when you're cooperating with another parent, you have to do what, you know, in my heart of hearts, I am an unschooler, but my style of classes is more relaxed, eclectic, I would say. But my heart of hearts is unschooling, I would say. So, all right. Thanks for watching. Don't forget my unit study planner. Grab the link here with this post. On YouTube, it's up in my banner, or I'll add the link in the description on Facebook and other I'm posting this on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. So just grab the link with this post. Thanks for watching. I'll see you